Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Community Conversation. I'm Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee, and we're here on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock doing this live Facebook broadcast and reminding everybody to share this out with your friends. This is a Wednesday evening community conversation that we have to talk about things that are happening in Rhode Island, things that are important to us, and tonight's no different. And we're going to have one of our small businesses on that we visited down in Westerly, which is Tapped Apple Cidery and Winery, and John's going to come on, and one of the owners of the family that owns it, and talk about what's happening in the small businesses, which I think is very important. And then of course we'll have the Rhode Island Coalition for Children and Families on, and representatives from that organizations to talk about the challenges that they're going through during the COVID and the wonderful services that they provide to the state of Rhode Island, and some of the challenges that they have both during COVID, but also before COVID and on the health crisis and after, unless we kind of do some things that will be helpful to them. But before I start, I just want to continue to talk about the masks and wear your masks out there. If you're watching, wear your masks. I kind of talk about that. It would be indecent exposure if you went outside without any clothes on. Well, if you went outside without your mask on, I would consider that indecent exposure as well. You know, you were exposing ourselves to health issues, but also exposing ourselves to more economic pain, because if the infection rate goes up, then we got to contain the openings of our businesses, maybe even go backwards. I don't advocate for that, but anything is possible. It's happened in Massachusetts to our restaurants, and the Massachusetts restaurants, where they got curfews now at 10 o'clock and they're shutting down the inside dining and other things like that. So we don't want to be that state. So wear your masks and stay healthy. And then the other piece that I continue to talk about is the education piece. Right now, because of the way that the virtual learning and all the challenges that our district schools have, our students are losing hundreds of hours of learning time, and we need to do something intentional about that. I'm advocating to do something that I did as a mayor in Cumberland, which was create a municipal education department, and that operates 52 weeks out of the year. It still operates today since 2007, so we're approaching the beginning of our 14th year in Cumberland, working with thousands of young people in the school age, helping them learn to read, do math, science, art, music, all academic programs, 52 weeks out of the year. This is something intentional that we could do in every community, because it doesn't matter if you are high income, low income, moderate income, whether you're a minority family, non-minority family, whether you're going to a private school, a public school, a charter school, our students are losing valuable learning time. And unless we do something intentional, that's something that's going to carry over throughout their careers. That's what the statistics show, that it's going to have a negative impact, their learning on their earning power, which is going to impact our economy. So if you have ideas about what we can do on our education, ideas about how we can help our small businesses, you can call us at 401-277-2372. Is that it? Put that up there, Ben. Now I'm having a block on my own number here, but put that number up, and then also you can go to ltgov20@gmail.com. Yeah, 222-2371, not 72, 2371. Give us a call, and if we can help you with anything, give us a call as well. So that's kind of the opening I have, is let's make sure that we wear the masks, and if you're out in public and you go somewhere where they're not wearing masks, wish them a good day, and then get out of there. This is serious business, and it's not only is it important to our health, but we know that it's going to be critical to our economy, and in particular the small businesses that I'm working with. And with that, let's bring on John from the Westerly Tapped Apple. John, thank you, John. Thank you for having that mask there. And we were fortunate to be able, my wife Susan and I, with Tony Silver, who's our chief of staff, and his wife Linda, we were able to come down to Westerly we frequent Westley quite often, as we do all 39 cities and towns. But we had a nice visit there, and we were able to provide some masks to all the businesses that we went to. And what a nice visit we had with you. Was we met your son, and we got a little history of your business. We
Right.
certainly got a flavor of Westerly, with the chamber in Westerly, how they're helping out along with the municipality. But give us a little introduction of your business, John, and how it started, and what the scope of the business is right now, and then give us a little overview of how you're adjusting to the current health crisis and how it's impacting your business and Westerly.
Certainly. So we're a very tiny little small family run business. It's me, my son, I'm John the third. My son is John the fourth. He's the winemaker and cider maker. My grandson, who's John the fifth, is 21 years old, and he just started working here. He's learning how to make wines and ciders as well. So, and my wife is our social media and pays the bills and bookkeeping and stuff. So we're really a tiny little place. We make our hard ciders and wines right here in these 2 tanks. We just started a batch today, 300 gallons in each tank of hard ciders. And those will be fermenting for the next 3 weeks. And then this is cider making season and wine making season, because our fruit that we make our wines and hard ciders from is apples. So we will be making wines and hard ciders every 3 weeks, probably into January or February, depending on how long the apples hold out. Obviously, March, April, May was devastating for us, as it was for most everybody. I'm sure we were closed, basically doing takeout only, which was very difficult. However, there was a silver lining, because we had purchased a manual canning machine used, and last year had no time to set it up. And so while we were shut down, we got out this manual canner and found out it was broken. And my son is very mechanically inclined, so he got on the phone with the manufacturer, and they figured out what was wrong, and my son fixed it. So we started canning our hard ciders. We're actually now in about 12 package stores throughout Rhode Island with our cans are 4-packs of our hard cider, various ones of our hard ciders. So that was a wonderful thing. One thing that I would request, if it's possible, I get requests from people who live here in Rhode Island. They come in. Oh yeah, my wife is here. She's handing
very
me a
helpful.
rock.
Yes, there you go. That's what we need. A couple of the examples there.
Yeah. So this is a mixed 4-pack of all 4 of our hard ciders. But we get here she comes again.
Okay, good.
She's
invite her on. Invite her on. Say hello.
Come on in and say hello.
Good. Oh yeah, that's very nice.
See your face.
Hello there.
This is my wife, Deb.
Hi, Deb.
So that's the Riesling Noir bestseller.
Yeah, this is our best-selling red wine. It's made with apples and cherries.
Nice.
But we get people in here and they're like, "Do you ship in ship it here in Rhode Island?" I'm like, "No, I can't. The DBR has informed me that the only way I can ship to you is if you come into the store and place the order. Then I can ship it to you." And they're like, "Well, that kind of defeats the whole point. I want to stay home."
Yes.
So I don't know if this law can be fixed.
So, John, do you know whether other states allow some level of shipping?
So if here in Rhode Island, I am in Westerly. If I was 100 yards west in Connecticut, I would be able to ship to residents of Connecticut.
Well, we will check into that, whether it's a regulation or whether it's a statute. But if it's a regulation, we were talking about when people come in, to help all these different businesses in a lot of different ways, and some of them had to do with beer and wine, and actually got to be able to do sell a draft beer and growlers, but we had to work hard for that. But what you're talking about, would you be allowed to deliver? Or is that?
I'm only allowed to deliver if they come into the store
Yes,
and
okay.
pay for it in the store first.
Yeah, so that's a unlevel playing field we've got to do something about. Thank you for bringing that up. We'll definitely follow up on that, see whether it's a regulation that can be addressed or whether it's a statute that needs to be addressed. But we want to level playing fields with our, bordering states, and we don't want to have any of our small businesses be at a disadvantage. And that's one of the reasons, if you may or may not recall, but our office learned that our brewers, and you're a brewer, was being charged for the physical kegs sales tax as they purchased it. But it was kind of part of the manufacturing in Massachusetts and Connecticut. They weren't being charged sales tax when they were purchasing the kegs. And we were able to get that law change and that statute change with Rep. Tabone and on the House side leading the charge. So, and that's has saved our brewers thousands of dollars, including is it Gray Sale, right? That's in Westerly as well, right?
Yeah, just about a quarter of a mile from here.
Yeah, they're great people, and actually they were part of the group that brought that up to us, and I think we resolved a small problem, but a big issue for small businesses if they can save a few $1,000s a year, and that's what it came out to, But so we'll take that up on the to see whether we can correct that through a regulation change or whether we need to do a statute. But we'll follow that up with you, John.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to also talk a little bit about the Restore Rhode Island grant program. Our office certainly has been very engaged in that effort, and in a lot of ways, the $50 million that's out there for grants from the federal dollars that was appropriated to the state, and that was an allowable use to help small businesses with grants. And I know that when I was there with you down there, that you had participated in that Restore Rhode Island grant program.
Yeah, I applied and I was granted $2,500.
Yes, and then did you reapply? Did you reapply as well? Because you're allowed a second application if you have.
I have not reapplied yet, and I'm thinking that I'm actually doing better now, and I'm thinking that I would don't need that money right now, and I would leave it for somebody else who does need it more.
You can. That's really good thought, but I want to tell you that if we don't use the money, we lose it. And if you qualified in the first application, all our small businesses qualify for an additional grant.
Really?
And there's $30 million available. It's not like it's going out, and we're going to ask for another $75 million. So I'm encouraging every business, because the dollars that come in, it'll help. And then you also can pay your vendors a little quicker, and maybe they are waiting on, maybe they need the dollars a little quicker. But yeah, I encourage everybody to follow up on that, because we need every community to get their fair share. And so I would encourage you to at least go on the short form and fill that out, John.
Okay, definitely.
All right, do that.
Look into that.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not a competitive grant, and it's not it's virtually it's everybody who is applying right now is going to get funds, get grant funds, from that $30 million that's still available.
Okay.
All right. So, and we're trying to exhaust that so we can ask for more, and then hopefully get a second or third check to our businesses throughout the state. And we're trying to build this up to, 5,000 businesses. So I'll be in Central Falls the next couple of days working with Mayor Diosa and Mayor-elect Rivera, and she's currently the council president, got elected last night. James Diosa has been termed out, but I'll be with them, and we're making an intentional effort to reach out to over 350 businesses in Central Falls and encourage all of them to apply, so that we're not leaving any money on the table.
Sounds good to me.
So you do that. That's a good deal. So tell me, tell me a little bit about the experience that your customers have, because we're going to encourage people who are watching this come and visit you, and let them know that they had heard about your Tapped Apple, here. So tell us a little bit about the experience when somebody comes into your shop, and what type of services are you providing them in terms of their experience there?
We have a tasting room here at 37 High Street in Westerly, and we have wines about 6 or 7 wines and various selections, and about 6 hard ciders as well. And we also do what we call cocktails, which is a blend of our hard ciders and wines. For example, one of our cocktails is some ginger wine with some cranberry hard cider, and then we also do balsamic ciders, which is we get some very premium balsamic vinegar, put a little bit in a glass, and fill it up with hard cider, and we call it balsamic ciders.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
My wife again here. So this is an example of some balsamic vinegars from Capizano's, which is 100 yards from here in Connecticut, but very premium products. And so we mix and match those tastings with all of those. A tasting is a flight of 6 selections, and you can choose the wines, you can choose the hard ciders, you can choose the balsamic ciders, you can choose the cocktails, 6 of whatever you want. There's many selections, many options there. Plus, we are a bring your own food place, so you could bring a picnic from home. You could get a pizza across the street. We do have, tasting room sorts of foods. We have crackers and cheeses and charisse. Right here in Westerly, we have our own chocolatier. We have Hauser chocolates right here, and we carry their truffles as well. So, people come in here and sometimes they bring a picnic with them, and sometimes I love it when somebody comes in and they start unpacking some food.
Do they put the tablecloth on the table at all yet? Have you seen that?
I have only seen that once.
Yes,
but that was very classic.
John, when I walked into your place, it was very kind of a neat place. It had a culture to it, so you created a culture there in terms of the way that you've set up your tables and the way that it's set up. And I think that a lot of these breweries, whether they're wineries like you have, or the draft beers, like Gray Sale has, it's become a social place to go.
Absolutely.
People, right? It's a social place to go in a way that it's almost like the new coffee shop, the new types of coffee shop. You come in, you're very comfortable, you're sitting in tables, and there's a lot of hospitality that you have in your facility.
Right.
So that must be by design, right?
It absolutely is. And everything that we make is available on tap. It's available in growlers, half growlers. Most of our wines are available for take home in bottles, as well as growlers. Most of our hard ciders are available in cans, as well as in growlers. So we have a lot of options.
Yeah, and you're right on High Street there too in Westerly, which is really a neat place. With your theater that's going to be open up shortly, and the activity levels that that they bring in there. But you had one particular event, a few weeks back where you were closed down High Street, and they worked with the chamber, and you brought your businesses out to the sidewalks, right, out to the street.
We had tables set up in the street. All the businesses had tables set up in the street, or they had their wares out in the street, or we were serving tastings out in the street. Yeah, it was very successful. It was only 7 Sundays.
Yes. Well,
but if we could do that all summer long, that would be so awesome.
I think that's my point here. I think that there are some, silver linings, if you said, and one of them is that, communities are becoming a lot more flexible in terms of what they're going to allow. And now they're seeing that, all the fears of bringing these businesses outside, or having wine out there, or having food out there, or having entertainment, it's not causing, it's a healthy community event.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So hopefully you'll be advocating for more of that, when the spring comes, and hopefully the good weather comes back. That's something I think that is, like I said, as a former mayor, I found it difficult because I was always like saying, let's do that, in some ways, let's do this, help these. Well, I had to go through a process. I had to go through a council. I had to go through a planning. I had to go through a zoning. And then by the time you actually work your way through it, but now because of the emergency that we're in, I'm seeing that councils and municipal leaders and people who are in the communities have a whole lot higher level of
Motivation.
motivation and feeling that, hey, if we, and then they're finding that it's quite a community event. So hopefully we're going to see more and more of that, John.
I hope so too.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you for, coming on. I wanted to talk about the grants, like I said, but I want to talk about the innovation that you and your family, you're a small family, small business, as you said, family operated, which is really neat. And right now you're doing fairly well, but that's a lot to do with your persistence and your ingenuity. But you're working a lot of hours right now too, what I would imagine.
Yeah.
We are. We're physically not open. The winery, cidery, the tasting room is only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday now. We used to be open 7 days a week. We're only open 3 days a week right now. But we are very busy canning and bottling and delivering out to package stores. And so my son and my grandson and myself, my wife, we're all pretty busy. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying to people, first of all, I want. I go see all 39 cities and towns. I'm in the middle of that tour, which has to do with the grants. I'll be in Cranston tomorrow, Cranston and Johnston. Those are the two communities I'll be in tomorrow. But Westley, I've already visited there. And we're encouraging the people who live in the state to do business with our small businesses and to be supportive. And you've had a lot of community support down there, but I'm also encouraging people who live in all different parts of the state to visit other parts of the state and enjoy that experience. That's part of the Rhode Island experience. So I encourage everybody to go down to Tap Apple, see John and his family, and
thank you so much.
Say hello down there. So thank you, John. Thank you so much for being on tonight and representing the entrepreneurship in the state of Rhode Island. As a small business person myself, I really do appreciate that energy. So thank you for being
so much,
here,
Lieutenant Governor.
Yep, right back at you.
All right.
Yeah. That the Tap Apple down there in Westley. I encourage you to head down there and frequent these small businesses. And if you live in Westley, come on up to to Central Falls. Go to Village Pizza. Have a really good pizza right on Dexter Street in Central Falls. I mean, let's really spend the time. It's not that long of a trip, and let's travel inside the state of Rhode Island and learn about our state. This is a perfect opportunity to do that. So if you get the chance, go down to Westerly and visit with John and all the businesses in the Westerly area, and enjoy a lot of the arts that are there too. You'll see these murals that are up on the different sides of the building that represent the history of Westerly, the Bricks and Mural program they called it. And John Garnier was actually on the town council, have brought that to Westerly at one point in time with a committee. So yeah, let's frequent our businesses back and forth. Let's bring on the Rhode Island Coalition for Children and Families. I had a call with them a few weeks back, and I thought that their stories were very compelling, very important work, and I wanted to just have them come on and share the the efforts and the works that they are working on. And thank you for all for being here tonight. I see Darlene and Craig and as well as Ben is here, right? And Tanja. Is it Tanja? Oh, unmute Tanja. Unmute. You gotta unmute.
Tanja.
All right. Is it Tanja? Yeah.
Tanja with a J.
Tanja. Thank you for being here. Why don't we just start? And I want to talk and refer to an op-ed that was written by people that were involved with your coalition. This was done by Beth Bixby and Benjamin Weiner, but it really laid out a report that was done with the Hasenfeld partnership with the Hasenfeld Institute, which I was, as a mayor, I was asked by Alan Hasenfeld to help work with that group as it was forming. I was fortunate enough to go up to Kennedy School on a Hasenfeld fellowship. So one of the deals was that I would always give back. So we were up there doing. So yeah, that was a great organization. But let's just start. Let's start with Craig and Craig, you chair the Rhode Island Coalition for Children and Families, and just give us a little overview so we can spend a few minutes just talking about the coalition and the purpose of that coalition and the history of that coalition, and we have we'll get to everybody to kind of give their their story, add their story to it, so the people who are watching this can kind of get a sense of the great work that you're involved in. So, Craig, welcome.
Sure. Thank you. Well, thank you. So I'd love to do that, but first I want to go to Westerly, and I need some of that cider. So that was wonderful, and I think it really does speak exactly to what you were saying about entrepreneurial spirit, and that's actually a good segue, because for folks that don't know, and we're glad to be on with you, the coalition is actually 38 of the nonprofit community-based agencies that really are throughout the state. So you mentioned Central Falls. We've got members that are in Westerly, to Woonsocket, and we've been around for 5 years now. I'll give a lot of the history over to Ben Lessing. Ben was our founding chairperson, and what all these those agencies do is we really needed to have a single voice. We needed to have some forum to really be able to advocate for vulnerable kids and families. And I don't need to tell you, but I know you realize these times are so fragile and so challenging for some of the most vulnerable families in the state. What I think we're going to try to educate you and your listeners and viewers tonight on is the very agencies that are our members are also struggling. That we're the safety net for essential services for abused and neglected kids, for families that need heating assistance, that need food, kids in foster care. So all those agencies are having such challenges because of the pandemic, because of limitations on state funding. I know you know this, but agencies that have been relying on both state contracts as well as fundraising are really facing a lot of challenges these days. It's hard to go to an event where you might have a dinner, and when you're socially distanced and you're limited to 10 people in a setting. So we're all facing really, really tough times right now.
Yeah, and I think that's, the point that when we talked the other day in a conference call with many of the members of the coalition, I felt as though that it's, we have the current crisis that we're working through, the health crisis, and it's created an economic, hardship on nonprofits as well as for-profits. So I thought that, and then beyond, because, we're always looking, I'm always kind of looking beyond and what we're going to do. We have this coalition of small businesses that I tell them, look, we're going to advocate for you during the health crisis and then after the health crisis. So I think that's part of what, the messaging that we want to deliver. And Darlene, why don't you weigh in a little bit, and also you represent the Adoption Rhode Island too, I believe, right? I was reading a little bit about that today. So give us a little overview, and you're the vice chair of this coalition of community of families, right?
Right. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm the CEO of Adoption Rhode Island, and I also serve as the vice chair of the Coalition for Children and Families. As you probably know, Adoption Rhode Island, we're a statewide organization that serves children in foster care, families that adopt kids from foster care, as well as grandparents and other caregivers, and youth that are at risk of aging out of care. So this population has been, as Craig said, these are vulnerable populations. These are children and families that struggle in the best of times, that do need support. We need to move kids out of foster care and not, see our foster care system getting, overburdened. And so the work is there. The work is continues. And, with the increased isolation and the increased mental health needs and the issues related to loss of food and all sorts of things that obviously impact many people across the state, when you're already vulnerable and you're kind of already on the edge, it just some of these families need a lot of help. And so organizations like all of ours, and I can tell you from Adoption Rhode Island, our staff are, they're working nonstop. They're really pivoting because, we can't go into the homes as, and do a lot of face-to-face like we did in the past. So they're learning all sorts of new technologies. They're teaching the families technologies and the kids technologies. And they have 24-hour phone responses. So they're working very hard and trying to pivot. And with all of that, all of the issues that Craig mentioned. I mean, an organization like ours, we're about 40 to 45% fundraising.
Yeah.
So we have a combination of government dollars and fundraising. We've had many fundraisers that have been canceled, and so it puts organizations like ours who are here to help the most vulnerable in a vulnerable position when we really want to just focus on the needs of the kids.
Yeah. So, and then Darlene, and just give us a little overview of why you felt this was important for Adoption Rhode Island to be part of this coalition.
Well, I've been part of the coalition since the very beginning, and I think that I'm a strong advocate for improving services and supports to children in the state. I mean, I think our children in the state of Rhode Island are amazing and deserve the advocacy. And there really wasn't a consolidated voice and advocacy for these children. And so it was important for me to step up and to help bring the voice of foster children and others to the table.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the advocacy, as we're going to get a little more detail when we start talking about the op-ed that was written, talking about, Hasenfeld's, findings and support of some of the, the issues that, need to be addressed in order to keep the organizations alive and well. We'll get to that. But yeah, then Ben, so you were, the original chair and you represent the Community Care Alliance as well. So give us a little reason why you would be chair of an organization like this, and also,
Sure.
Give us a little overview on what the Community Care Alliance, what their role is, and and I'd like to have you touch on, the amount of the amount of staffing that all these organizations represent. Literally thousands of employees and staff that earn income off that. But give us a little background on why you would chair an organization like this, and a little bit about your alliance as well.
Well, one of the things, first of all, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And I wanted to remind you that you actually spoke at one of our annual meetings for one of our legacy organizations called Family Resources Community Action. You were connected to one of our board chairs, Julian Ayotte, and we were pleased to have you at our annual meeting one year. So I think, to Darlene's point, we really were trying to, if you think about the coalition to some extent for human service agencies, particularly for kids and families, is I guess it's an alternative metaphor to a chamber of commerce, if you will. We come together because there's a need for us to come together to support one another and to also advocate for the needs of kids and families. And what we had found prior to the development of the coalition was that everyone was pretty much on their own for the most part. And there were certain issues that were related to kids and families that just were not being addressed. The first issue I can tell you we addressed as soon as we formed as a coalition was around child investigations and child maltreatment, which was basically not transparent at all. And we were able to work with the General Assembly to put some legislation in place with the Child Advocate to make sure that there were panels put in place to investigate each of these. And I think Darlene has sat on probably 3 or 4 at this particular point in time. But as a result of that, transparency, we were able to begin to change practice, and we were able to do some advocacy for kids and families in those kinds of circumstances. So CCA is really a combination of about 3 major human service agencies, a community action agency, a family service agency, and a community mental health center. Our headquarters are in Woonsocket. Most of our work is in Woonsocket. We serve about 15,000 individuals and families a year. And we do everything from basic needs around food, housing, utilities, to child welfare work, early childhood work, behavioral health. We have an extensive array of behavioral health services and so forth. But what we're trying to do is get to families as soon as possible so that we can try to keep them out of the child welfare system where possible. And if they are in the child welfare system, then we work with DCYF in terms of trying to, stabilize them and keep families either together or reunify kids with families. One of the things that we have seen as a result of COVID is that, and this is a result of funding at the federal level beginning to dry up. In the last month and a half or so, our requests for food alone have doubled. Mm-hmm. So we are now serving at minimum 900 families a month who are coming to us in need of food, and we distribute food through other means as well to our staff who are working with families in the field. But these are families that are coming directly to us and basically saying they don't have enough to eat. We're also seeing a lot of youth that are what we refer to as couch surfing. They're really homeless, but they're able to kind of move from place to place. They may have friends that they can access, and that's how they survive on a daily basis. And they often access our youth center, which works with them around employment issues and behavioral health issues and so forth. So our motivation here is really to try to get to a situation as early as possible. In some cases, as soon as babies are born, in terms of working with families and trying to strengthen them relative to whatever they need. If the need is housing, if the need is food, if the need is around mental health services for parents and so forth, we're trying to be an organization that provides comprehensive services to families. And in Woonsocket, unfortunately, Woonsocket continues to have the highest rate of child abuse and neglect in the state. A lot of that is due to poverty. And so poverty is at the root of a lot of the things that we all deal with. And, even in terms of Darlene's programs and so forth, she's trying to keep kids on a trajectory that becomes a more positive life, but at the same time, she's having to deal with the issues of poverty that are also creating those challenges as well. Right. So,
first, thanks for all your work, and I want to talk to Tanja, about her role as executive director of this coalition. But Ben, I think that you bring up a really important point. Is that first of all, with the federal dollars that have been appropriated to the state, 1.25 billion. And millions of dollars that have not been appropriated. That's one of the reasons I wanted you to come on, because we want to start building this story that this is the time to loosen up on the purse strings on those dollars and provide those dollars right now to meet the immediate needs, because those dollars are available and those are very relatable to the COVID, what you just talked about. All you're doing is putting a magnifying glass on some of the problems that you dealt with on a regular basis year to year, and those have got grown because of the COVID issue and the impact that it's having on families' incomes and you're right. I'm no psychologist, but I did work with a lot of young kids in the Boys and Girls Club work, and hopefully when they expand that Boys and Girls Club in our old building up in Woonsocket, we had a health club in for 30 years. That'll be another resource that you'll be able to use to help these families.
Well, they'll be directly across the street from us. Yeah. And in addition to that, we also provide the food service for them right now.
Yes, so that, that partnership there, and my dad started the Boys Club in our hometown of Cumberland in the 50s with John Partington. I was a member, then I was a board member, I was a president, I started the endowment fund. I serve as a ex officio on that board right now, and it's important work, and it's only a piece of the work, and that's why I kind of get drawn into the work that you and Ben and Ben and Darlene and Craig do and others, and of course what Tanja supports as an executive director. So I think there's really a case to build here, not only on your nonprofits that have the 50 and under employees to get some grants, but also on the larger facilities to get funding to help support the services that you're working on right now, Ben. And that's something that I think hopefully we'll continue to talk on, and our office will definitely support that effort on the short term. There's still
Great.
$400 to $500 million that has not been appropriated, and it's a use it or lose it funding. That's why I'm working on the small business to get 50 million out. Huh? Yeah.
We do not want to lose it.
No, we don't want to lose it, and that's why I want to put another 75 million out for the small businesses, because if they end up having problems, then you're going to have more, not less, of things that you're going to have to actually address. So, anyways, Tanja,
really,
give it. Go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to say. So the really important thing is we are very, very thankful and very supportive of the Restore Rhode Island program, and that's critical. And many of our members do have under 50 employees,
Yes.
And they're small and creative and very innovative services. But also many of our members, as Ben just pointed out, are large mental health centers, community action agencies, and have several hundred employees, and they're all hurting. So
yeah, so Craig and I just I think you heard me say that I'll be in Central Falls for the next couple of days, partnering in with the municipal leaders there and the chamber, and we intend to reach out to at least 300 businesses in that 1 square mile, and our goal is to bring $500,000 or more into that community through those grants, and so many people don't know about it. So any of your members that fit in that role and they need some assistance, our office stands ready and able to help out. Tanja, give us a little overview of what it's like to be an executive director of an organization that has, such a variety of, missions in a lot of ways, although they're all aligned, but they all have their own independent missions and strategies. But give us a little overview of what it's like to sit in your seat. Oh, you're muted again, Tanja. Nice. You're good now.
Thank you. So I'm Tanja Kubismeyer with a J, which is incredibly confusing, but it's a pleasure to be with you and to have an opportunity to talk about both the wonderful work that our members do and the challenges that are facing us during the pandemic specifically. Although some of those are extensions of ongoing challenges in better times. It is actually quite a lot of fun to do this work and be the staff to the coalition. We operate really through a strong leadership system, as opposed to maybe what I'd call a strong staff system. And so each of our members has a board seat, and then we have an executive committee comprised of a subset of the larger board, and then a set of officers, a couple of whom are here, and Ben is the past chair, who lead us on a day-to-day basis. So what I enjoy about my work is I really get to leverage the content expert of all of these folks in so many areas, right? Behavioral health, education, juvenile justice, child welfare, healthcare, disability. I mean, it's just a seemingly endless list of things that touch children and families, and try and sort of move them along on a path toward improving both the quality of the services that are available, the resources available to both children and families and young people and the agencies, and represent them at times as well. So I mean, it's a lot of fun, and I've worked in the past with homelessness. I was actually very early involved with the Coalition for the Homeless in the state, a lot around family policy. This is probably the most challenging role I've had, just because of the as you note, the number and breadth of the organizations. But it's certainly keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, I could only imagine. Tanya, let's talk a little bit about this op-ed. I think you're familiar with that, right? With the Hasenfeld Report. Give us what the overview of that. Why you went to Hasenfeld, the foundation, and what it was that you were trying to do. But it's pretty clear as I reviewed the report, and that there's some issues that are financial issues that are causing a problem with people who are inclined to want to do this work, but because of the pay scales unable to, make a career out of it and raise families on it. But give us a little bit of in-depth, that's kind of really a cursory type of
Sure.
a statement, but give us a little bit in depth of why you thought that was so important.
Yep. Well, this work cannot be done without a quality workforce, right? No health and human services can be done without that. And so, and yet it has been actually kind of hard to bring forward the issues of our members as an industry set of issues. I think folks think of us more almost as recipients of help than actually a helping industry. And so one of the reasons that we wanted Hasenfeld to work with us was to really look at have someone objectively look at the data and help us determine, really where do we fit into the landscape of industry in the state, and to quantify some of the things that we knew anecdotally were true from our membership about the nature of the workforce being very heavily female, being very heavily people of color at the very front lines, especially being really sadly still stagnant wages and lower income than anybody should be for the nature and importance of the work that they do, and then use that information to start to build the conversation more publicly, to start to develop really career ladders, educational incentives, and the respect and value of the sector as how it relates to the larger healthcare economy in the state.
Yeah, and I think in the op-ed that Beth Bixby and Benjamin Weiner put into the journal, I thought one of the things that bounced out at me is how many employees are involved with this work. 6% of the state's workforce, 18,000. That's the number that was used in the op-ed. 18,000 people actually are working in this work, in this industry, right?
Correct. And our members do not represent all of those people. That is actually a number that includes both the public sector workforces, so employees at places like DHS, DCYF, as well as the community-based organizations. But they're all part of a critical workforce, and we can't just take care of one part and not the other if we want to have a meaningful and responsive system.
Yeah, one of the things I think is important as we look at these complicated issues, and especially budgetary issues, as a small business person, but also as a mayor, I managed 12 different budgets while I was there, and multi-million-dollar budgets, and so there is a challenge when you start and talk about money or increasing, expenses, or but it seems as though some states have figured out how to index some of the contracts. A lot of the work that's done with the state is through contracts, right? I mean, through management agreements of some sort. And are you familiar with that at all? They did point out how they were able to kind of at least incrementally, get ahead of the curve to a certain degree, which we haven't done yet.
Correct. And I'm very familiar with it. And as a matter of fact, we have been talking to the state for a couple of years now about the need for a rate setting program, and have actually, with the leadership of Brother Jim Martino of Ocean Tides, developed a very strong rate setting methodology that we've proposed. So we're very much in that conversation. We testified before the Senate discussions on rate setting around healthcare this spring. And I think that's going to continue to be a large priority for us both. We think, frankly, rate increase would be a very valuable use right now of the CARES Act money, as we know people are losing revenue as well as having higher costs, but more permanently to have really a thoughtful and robust rate setting process that actually pays for the cost of the services that we're providing. Because most of our members are literally having to supplement every dollar that they receive from the state to even provide the most basic services. And we don't want basic, we want quality. That's what the children and families in our state deserve. So that is absolutely part of our motivation for going more publicly into this space. And also just, the increasing challenge of trying to keep our workforce intact and strong. And this is also, I think, as the state thinks about its initiatives around race equity, that this is a workforce that really you could make a really big difference, right? By investing in these workers, either the incumbent workers or creating a pipeline into this, you could really make a big improvement in the lives and families of our households of color in our state, because so many of them, so many folks work in caring professions. So that's another motivation that we have.
Yeah, maybe I could go to Craig and go ahead, Ben. Go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to suggest that Craig reference his work in Massachusetts, because Craig's organization works in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and Massachusetts has sort of figured some of these things out that may be of interest to you.
And it's exactly what you said, Lieutenant Governor. So there is an index. It is revised every single year. Agencies provide cost reports. They're reviewed every single year through the Department of Administration. And it helps set a usually pretty modest rate increase that helps the organizations meet expenses. The irony, from the private sector perspective, is we're always looking 1 or 2 years behind, so it never quite catches up. But at least there is an automatic system to look at, how expenses meet revenue. That also exists in Connecticut. And I will say, just as you were pointing out with the previous guest, it can be done administratively. It can be done through a regulatory process as much as it could be done through a legislative process.
Yeah, so I think that's important, and I think the scales there in terms of your different categories, I'd love to take a look at that. I think that those are important. Maybe the report, I didn't get into depth on the report, whether there's, attachments to that, but I think that's really important to know the numbers. I know it's not the same.
Essential workers. They're all, these are workers who are going into families' homes, trying to provide counseling and case management. They're providing food. They're trying, providing counseling at home. They're workers that are going into group homes. So when we talk about an essential workforce, we ultimately certainly respect our doctors, our nurses, our healthcare workers, but our staff are also part of the behavioral health workforce.
Yes. And having waiting so long, and now how do you catch up? And then how do you how many years is a reasonable time to do that? It's not the same thing, but in our town of Cumberland, we ran our budget, and yet we did set our water rates because it was an enterprise fund, and we were always reluctant to to bump up the water rates. So we would go years without bumping up the water rates, and then we would be in this spot where all of a sudden, man, we're going to run a deficit if we don't. And then all of a sudden we give a 13, 14% increase on the water rates, and everybody goes crazy. So what I did was I said, look, we're going to attach the water rate to our tax rate. So if we have a 2% tax increase, we're going to go up 2% on our water rate. And if we're going to have a 1% tax increase that year, we go up 1% on the water rates. And that way, over periods of time, we were able to keep indexing it to the inflationary rates that the rest of the budgets demand, and not ignore that, and not create these spikes that create a real heavy burden on the taxpayers in that situation. I would say that I would make the same argument on this, is that at some point you got to dig in and create an equalizer and index it, but have a strategy that that you're willing to live with, because people know that over periods of time, there's some level of catch up there. But I think it's a really important point that you're making.
Absolutely.
We got a few more minutes here. So could you just run, because of the variety of the work that is being done, is there a way that you could just, obviously not give personal examples, but give a story of, one of your successes, with, with one of the families that you're working with, a specific thing that would come to mind, just to give people the kind of sense of the depth of the services that this coalition does provide. You willing to do that?
I can tell you a story. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes.
So we, one of the young people that basically has spent most of his life in foster care, and our organization has worked with him in all of our programs, recruiting families, providing counseling and other types of supportive services, invited him and so forth to all of our events this year, and he turned 19. So he's not a baby. He turned 19, and in the middle of this pandemic, we were able to get him adopted. And so now he's working full time. He has a family. It's going to be the first Thanksgiving that he's going to be with a family, his own family. And so, kind of in spite of all challenges, our staff and the families, the foster and adoptive families, I mean, we need to talk about how we rely on the goodness of so many families across our state as well, are stepping up for abused and neglected children in this state. So, and our staff are, like they won't take no for an answer. They just do everything they can to get through the barriers to kind of make sure that the kids' needs are met. So I don't know.
That's a great story. Thanks. Anybody want to share a story before we? Go ahead, Craig.
I thought of an older youth also when Ben was talking about couch surfing. Our organization just ultimately helped a boy get his own apartment and a job, and his background had been going from friend to friend, getting into an awful lot of very tough situations, some very precarious kinds of situations. He could have taken a very serious wrong turn, left-hand turn, but he came back to us and explained the situation, and it took our staff about a month, but actually helped him get stabilized, solidified his job, and just helped get his security deposit and first month rent for an apartment just a few weeks ago.
Great. And if you're listening out there, and I'll go to Ben next, but not only if you need the type of services that are being described here, contact, there's ways that you can contact our office and we can pass that along, but also if you're that family that, Darlene talking about, that is looking to really give back into the community. And I was with a member of a chamber the other day who had adopted a young baby, him and his wife, and had done the adoption, not the adoption, but what you're working on. What's the other level here? You have adoption and
foster care.
Foster care, yes, the foster care, yes, yeah. Ben, you got a story you want to share?
Yeah, I'll stay on the older youth theme. We work with many older youth through our youth center, and part of our youth center's focus is really to keep kids in school or to get them into sort of post-secondary training or higher levels of training. And one of the things that we've done over the last few years is started a relationship with Electric Boat. And you might find that a little bit odd given the fact that we're in Woonsocket, but Electric Boat has a wonderful apprentice program. First youth that we got into this program he was homeless, he was struggling with school, basically had no adults in his life. And so our staff at the youth center took him under their wing and eventually helped him obtain his GED and got him some counseling and eventually got him connected to Electric Boat. And our staff had to figure out how to get him from Northern Rhode Island to Electric Boat every day to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so they set up this elaborate, transportation system in terms of, he was going to go to Providence, he was going to hook up with someone in Providence, and then get down to Electric Boat. He eventually got through the apprenticeship system, and they said, we want to hire you. We want to put you in one of our trade programs. And he was able to do that. He's a full-time employee there now. He's making good money. He has a career. I think those are the things that a lot of folks don't know that organizations like ours do in terms of really trying to see these situations through to the positive outcome.
Yeah, the personal stories are so important, because that's the reason you do the work. And Tanya, that's probably the reason that you do the work you're doing, right? To hear those stories and be part of those, those efforts.
It is, Lieutenant Governor, and I mean, if you don't mind my just making a pitch at the end here, that when we're talking about CARES Act and use of those funds to help, we think that there's definitely investments that can be made to support families, like housing, getting that housing bond passed, which is not a CARES Act thing, but related. And then, all assistance to families and to foster families. And then for the organizations, some hazard pay, the workers that are going into work, that are providing residential services, that are going into people's homes are taking risks. And then they have to go home to their own families. And so that's an issue that we really would like to see addressed for more than the 12 weeks that we are grateful for, but is not adequate to the length of the pandemic. And then also, consider a rate bump to help with some of these costs, because our agencies are very much want to still be here at the other end of this pandemic to continue to provide support to the community. And that's what we do.
Yeah, I think that's a good pitch. And I want to hear more about, how you're going to proceed with that effort. But that's the reason I wanted you here tonight, because we'll have thousands of people who watch this. We have legislators that watch this as well as, and we know that these are the stories that the media that is aware of the efforts that we're making on behalf of small businesses and on behalf of families, and the education work that I've been involved with for years. These are the type of stories that they want to tell. So we'll try to pass that along. And my pitch was the one that I started off with. There's this real significant loss of learning time that's going on, and you're going to see this. You're already going to see it, because hundreds of hours of being lost on learning. And we know that it's going to impact, like I said, high income, low income, moderate income. But the families that struggle the most in education right now, and it hurts our economy, and it burdens your systems significantly, they're going to be impacted in a disproportionate way as well. So
our members are trying to help every day.
Yeah, and so we're going to be talking about these municipal education departments that I started when I was a mayor, because we had a serious issue with failed elementary schools in our town of Cumberland, and I wanted to do something about it, and we have. And so this, because then it really gains this community idea that education is important, and it is a track. We know that if we're able to reach higher levels in our public schools, that our income levels in the state of Rhode Island could be increased as much as $2 billion. So the families would be increasing their income, and a ninth grade education, high school education, they actually can double their income because of the innovation that will be attracted to, the strongest schools. So they're all connected, but God bless you for all the work that you do. And, please stay in touch with us. And if we can be helpful, especially on the food issue, there's no reason, Ben, why they're not able to supply food, or there's a demand there right now. There is resources, and touch base with us, because if you are running out of food, we certainly have networks that can supply that for you, and we're doing that all around the state of Rhode Island. So and then I'm sure you can educate me as well as where those resources are, so we can help other people at the same time. But we'll be in touch with you on that one.
Thank you very much.
You got it. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Be
Stay in
well.
touch. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, that's the Rhode Island Coalition for Children and Families, and it's a large coalition that is working with families throughout the state of Rhode Island. I've always used that theme in our office as Lieutenant Governor, number 39, because there's 39 cities and towns in the state of Rhode Island, and each and every one of them is important, and the communities that make up the communities are important. Whether it's the small business community, or it's community, members that actually are in need of the services from the Rhode Island Coalition for Children and Families. So I thank them for their work, and look forward to continue to work with them with the goal is to actually put them out of business, but we know that, there's so much work to be done before we ever get to that point. So let's put the work in and invest those dollars and put that federal dollars towards this effort. We have the flexibility to advance some of those funds in a way that, we'll get serious, returns on. So anyways, thank you so much for joining us on the community conversation. I'm the Lieutenant Governor. We'll be back on Tuesday with a conversation on small business. We're back again next week on Wednesday. Until then, wear the masks. Think about this. This would be indecent exposure to be out there like this. So put it on, keep us healthy, and protect our economy at the same time. And if you go into a space, especially as we're coming up with the holiday season, into a space that's not wearing the wet mask, no need to pick a fight. Wish them a good day and get the heck out of there. Protect your health as well. So thanks for being here. See you next week on the Community Conversation. Stay safe.